Hey, good evening. I know that you might not necessarily be watching this in the evening, but for me it is evening, so good evening. I am slightly wired on C4 energy drink, so that's cool. I also started playing Halo and getting in touch with the old high school me who was addicted to video games. I'm trying to get in touch with the person who enjoyed playing and wasn't afraid of wasting some time. Not trying to get in touch with the addicted part. Excuse me. Um, Today I want to talk about. I don't even know why I talked to you about Halo. Why is that relevant? It's relevant because play. Play is good for us. It's good to play. I'm going to remind you one more time. It's good to play. Our society idolizes work, idolizes busyness, idolizes the grind. And that's fine to value those things. But to forget that there's another side to our human experience, which is play, and to forget that we can work playfully is kind of unfortunate and kind of dangerous. Our playfulness is one of the most important parts of us. If you think back to playground days, if you think back to board games that you've played, if you think back to video games, when we're in play, we're oftentimes the most engaged with the immediate world around us as all just about any other time in our lives. Play is this like high stimulus, flow state, reactionary mind meets instinct event in which our entire selves are invited to participate. And that's important. That state of mind is important and I think worth pursuing, even when it comes to the serious things in life. All right, so I've been thinking a lot about that lately and trying to become a more playful person every day, even as I work harder and work more hours and grind harder on my music, etc. I want to be doing all of this in a playful state. Okay, so some thoughts on that. I think that one of the ways this is expressing in my life right now is through humor. And humor has a lot to do with understanding the way that things are connected, understanding context, understanding expectations, and understanding the value of surprise. If you are not aware of current events, if you're not aware of context, if you're not aware of what people are expecting and not expecting, it's going to be hard to be a funny person. It's going to be hard to surprise people. What is surprise? What is well done surprise to the comedian? Not even necessarily the comedian, just the comedian in you, like the person who does something funny, who incorporates some comedic value into their daily conversations. What is that person doing? I think they are seeing the whole and they are looking for patterns, and then they are playing with said patterns, which I think is awesome. I think that that has a lot to do with cleverness. Okay, so like comedy is connected to surprise, is connected to cleverness, and all of these are associated, and they're playing with association as well. It's a very meta thing, and it takes a lot of practice. but it's really important, and playing in this way will actually help you in all your other endeavors. This is like one skill that will make all of your other skills progress faster and in a more fun way. So what I mean by that, I mean you want to be able to connect dots in a way that other people haven't thought to connect them before. So if you can do that, like, which is creativity, by the way, which is like discovering something that was not previously imagined, that's creativity. When you are imagining for somebody something that they would not have thought of, but that makes sense, then that is pleasant surprise. That's joyful creativity. You can be creative and not funny. You could connect dots in a new way that no one's ever thought of before, but if it doesn't please, if it's not surprising enough, or if it's unpleasant, not exciting, or redundant, then people will not be pleased by it. It could still be creative without being effective. So you want to connect dots in a way that someone else wouldn't have thought to connect them. That's humor. All right. This is just like a little bit of self-reflection, because I haven't been in touch with the humor part of me for a long time. Not really enjoying the art of it, but I kind of jumped on this train. On Facebook, people were doing the imagine your card declines at fill in the blank meme, which I thought was kind of cool. It was like, imagine your card declines after getting a tattoo and they get out the sandpaper and you're like, oh no, like that would be unfortunate to not be able to pay for something that is supposedly permanent, but then like they come out and they're like, oh, this wasn't permanent, like you can't pay up, like let's take that tattoo back, you know. And it's kind of like takes you to this gruesome crisis mode. It's like, they're gonna sandpaper this off of my skin, you know. Like obviously I don't need to explain that, but there's surprise in there that like really catches you off guard, but there's joy in the idea of like, oh my gosh, what is the biggest extreme that somebody would go to if you couldn't pay them to undo the service that they just did for you? That's funny, because you can, hearing one situation makes you, it associates immediately, like it lights up in your brain all these associations with like, there's a lot of places that could happen. And so for me, I was like, what are all the places that this could happen? People were already riffing on like food places. It's like, you go, imagine you go to Subway, your card declines, and they start disassembling the sandwich in front of you and like putting all the ingredients back. It's like, that's funny. I like that. And then so I like hit a couple winners, like they got enough likes. I'm like, okay, yeah, they were decently funny. I said, imagine your card declines after getting a haircut, and your stylist grabs your stylist grabs a bottle of glue. I thought it was funny, and a lot of people laughed at it too, and so like that felt good to share that association. It's like, oh, okay, here's the meme. I get the structure. I found one. Like, you've done food, you've done tattoos already. I found hair. And then the next day I was like, okay, imagine you get a music lesson. Imagine your card declines after a music lesson and the teacher gets out a lobotomy kit. It's like, oh, yikes, you know. But it's like, oh, I found another service that is like hard to undo, but hypothetically, could you undo it? Like, that's intense and funny. People liked that one as well. It was a little darker, but people liked it. And then today, knowing how much that meme is out there presently, like in the current internet affairs, I was like really trying to figure out a new context, but I couldn't. I was running out. I was like, I don't know how many services there are out there. There's like maybe getting your nails done, or like, I don't know, but a lot of things are pay up front, you know, so you run out of things eventually. Then I was like, oh, we'll go into wordplay, because I love wordplay. And then I said, okay, imagine your card reclines. Like, and then I was like, oh, okay, they're going to think that that's a typo. But what if they think it's typo, but then they keep reading and they realize it was a legit sentence? So I was like, imagine your card reclines at the furniture store. And then period. That's it. Nothing else happens. It's just the humor was there's a word and I spelled it very closely, so it might look like a typo, and then I can play with that perception of the typo. That's kind of how humor works. And I just stumbled upon this one. Like, I feel very lucky that it worked at all. I lately have not considered myself to be a funny person, and I've been afraid to play with humor. So I don't know what has kind of helped. I don't know what has helped me engage with that again, but I'm glad. I think part of it is getting into video games again. Just this doesn't matter as much, but what if it does? What if this state of playfulness, of playing with what's in front of you and trying to play well, trying to figure out the game and then participate well, that is important. I do think that's important because we're playing games with each other all the time. So much of what we experience is embedded in constructs and social agreements and constructs. So in one way, I know life is serious, but in another way, life is games and rules and made up rules. So you do well as a human if you can show up to those rules, show up to those agreements, analyze the rules, see, oh, okay, I see what's going on. Sure, I'll play. Can I bring my personality into this playground? That's what you want. That's the goal. That's flow state. And you have to be unrestricted, and you have to be aware, and you have to be willing to analyze a little bit, and also to take risks, and to know that trying this or trying to surprise people, trying to be clever isn't always going to land. And so if it doesn't, then you have to say, okay, why didn't that work? Which is not just important in joke making. It's important all the time in all your interactions. So you intend something and it doesn't land right, you have to step back and say, okay, why didn't that work? Maybe next time I can refine my process. Maybe it wasn't surprising enough. Maybe my punchline was something people already heard. Maybe it's too much of a stretch, too much of a reach. Maybe it's too hard to imagine that that's the way things will go. There's a lot of ways that a joke can go wrong. It could just be the wrong timing. If I tried those a week later, it probably wouldn't work. Okay. So there's a lot of things to be aware of. Again, I think I just I don't know, stumbled upon this little string, and I'm on a high from it. So that's why I'm using this example. What I should do is go to real comedians and look at their best jokes and say, why did this work? What were they being aware of? What rules were they using? And then what rules were they breaking in order to get past your expectations, surprise you? That would be fun. I'll probably do that someday. Right now, I can't think of much off the top of my head that I would be ready to analyze. But this is the mindset I'm on right now. I think I'd like to do another video on it. It's a little more in depth, cleverness and associations and surprise, and how that connects to humor as well. But I'll leave you with one practice, a thing that might be fun, a fun game for you to play in your day-to-day life if you want to. And it's to choose two seemingly unrelated objects, the more unrelated the better, and then ask yourself how many ways are they like each other. It's just building metaphors or building similes. It's fun to do with friends. Just pick two random objects and be how many ways is this thing like this thing, and see what they can come up with, or see what you can come up with together. It's a very basic way to get into associative thinking, and to just stretch your brain. My quick example before I leave is I've asked two people. I've asked my girlfriend and one of my friends. I asked them how many similarities, or in how many ways is a fish like a tree, or vice versa. And actually the list was like pretty pretty long. They did really well. Um, things like they both have to breathe. They both do need water. Uh, they both have to like grow external appendages off of their main body in order to function well. So like fins and leaves, the similarity between that. They both can have eyes, right? A tree can have eyes. There's like cut if you like slice one open, like they both have rings in them. Um, depending on how you cut it, of course. There is you can be as obvious as, oh, they're both living organisms, right? They both are made of atoms. But like the thing is that those things are those like low hanging fruit things, like, oh, they're like each other and that they're both on the planet Earth. There's no surprise there, right? But then the things like, oh, if you cut them open, they both have rings in them. That's a lot more surprising. It takes a lot more work to imagine like cutting this kind of gruesome scene of like cutting through these organisms and seeing what the patterns are like inside those bodies, right? Like that's a bigger imaginative stretch. It took more imagination and something that probably not everybody would have thought of. Okay, so like the more rare, the more unexpected, the more interesting. And I know that's not necessarily humor, but that's the practice of association in a clever way. Okay, so the farther you can get from the low hanging fruit of, yeah, they're both living things, and the closer you can get to, oh, like not very many people would come up with this, the better you're going to like come to your playgrounds with something surprising, something new to offer, and something eventually like funny or pleasant or useful in a new way. Okay, so the challenge is kind of like, how clever can you be? How specific of a perspective can you give to any situation? Okay, so yeah, find a friend, find two random objects. How is a pen like a cup? How is a wall like a road? How is Jupiter like the ring on my finger? Anything. Just find two things. Ask a friend how they're like and go back and forth. It'd be kind of fun. All right, I don't really have anything else to say for now. So this has been daily number 4. I'll be back for daily number 5 tomorrow. Good night.